you can't reach customer support for most of the companies that you utilize in your daily life. There is way more demand for customer support than the companies can afford. If you're trying to apply AI at your company, really understand its limitations and understand that there are some traps out there and you should be aware of them. Would you prefer to pay $1,000 to someone that generates like $5,000 in return to you? Or would you rather pay $500,000 to someone that will generate 10 millions in return to your company?
Welcome to Artificial Insights, the podcast where we learn to build AI businesses by interviewing product leaders and innovators in AI. Today, I'm joined by Carlos Almeida. Carlos is the CEO and founder of Optave, an AI copilot and autopilot that gives superpowers to enterprise customer support agents. And before launching Optave, Carlos has been in digital project management for over a decade, and notably as head of product and design at a Movie Desk, a customer support company. He played a role in driving a 20 times increase in valuation in less than 2 years. He's also served as head of innovation at a major media conglomerate. I met him at an entrepreneur program called Antler, and he was there founding Optave, and I've been excited to follow his journey since. Carlos, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Daniel, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I'm Carlos. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Optave. Optave gives superpowers to corporations' customer support by creating a copilot and an autopilot, very similar to what you have on cars like Tesla. So the autopilot takes control once it's ready and assists you in driving better once you're not. So we're improving our customer support agents, and at the same time, we are automating and making everything way more efficient.
Awesome. I'll ask you more about your story in a second, but a question that I think is on everybody's mind for a podcast like this is, Carlos, are you an AI?
No. Well, actually, I'm not only an AI, right? Because I have a body, and it's questionable this whole thing of artificial intelligence is questionable. What is artificial intelligence, right? If it's an intelligence, and we're getting close to see an AGI, I believe, coming from the same foundations or bits and that we have for computers, and that these boundaries of what is artificial and not would be very blurred, I guess.
But you don't currently consider yourself an artificial intelligence.
No, I don't.
I actually asked ChatGPT recently, what does corn syrup taste like? And I feel like that kind of question has to be one of the questions that shows you very clearly that it is an artificial intelligence. It can't have a tongue. It can't taste. So it has to go off of reviews, essentially. But it was very accurate. And so you mentioned right now you're working on a company called Optave, and Optave helps customer support agents. How does AI fit into that for you, and how did you arrive at the current solution you're using?
Yeah, so AI is at the central point of what we do. Our goal is to be the best AI for customer support. And I started with customer support. Once I was thinking about what to do, I already knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm getting prepared to be an entrepreneur for a decade now. And once the time came, you need to ask yourself a bunch of questions. For example, why now and why you? I have a lot of experience in customer support. I was previously head of product. I have a very successful customer support here and from South America that got sold. And it was obvious that the AI was disrupting the world. So I've quit my job to be an entrepreneur in September. ChatGPT was launched in November. So it was crazy. It was okay, this is huge. This is one of the most amazing things that happened in the last decade. And this is changing everything. And then I drew a bit of the processes of the industries that I had worked before. I've worked in banks, I've worked in e-commerce and media, and I was trying to understand which business models were being more disrupted. And AI was disrupting every step of customer support. from that flow. So it was more than 20 steps, and artificial intelligence was disrupting all of them. So it was clear to me, okay, I guess I have a chance here. So I have a lot of options and a lot of interesting things to do with AI, and I've decided to follow this road. At the beginning, I thought that the AI wouldn't be capable of answer correctly the way that it needs, and that we could be used as guardrails to evaluate the quality of customer support and help a human to do better. But then, after some research, I've realized that if the AI can help a human to do the customer support, it can do it itself. So, but let me be clear on that. It can help humans before it can automate, and this is what we do with our copilots. But I was thinking, like, if you can help any human with any context outside of the company, because I was talking about the marketplace. So the idea is like you can work at your home with customer support. So if I can give you all the information for someone outside of the company to do the tickets, then the AI can do it as well. What the AI can help nowadays is like they help the customer support agents that are already working inside the companies that have access to tools that other agents and other people don't have. They have access to systems, that have access to information that other people don't have. And this can make a big difference. But if I can make like someone, I don't know, in Nigeria answer your customer support, I can make the AI answer the customer support with the same method.
Wow, I think there's a lot in there too, that even you mapped the journey of customer support to 20 different steps is, I think, fascinating. But tell me a little bit more about that comparison to someone in Nigeria. What are the parameters you see that allow the AI to be successful like that? Because it sounds like it's not just, I have a support team in-house, I then replace them immediately with AI. I actually have to think of, what does this person who's sitting outside my company in a different company or a different country like Nigeria, what do they need to be able to support my customers?
Oh, yeah. So first, they need to have access to all the information to answer. That is a great limitation for AI. So they need to have it structured in a way that it's clear, it's non-ambiguous. You need to give them access to the trainings and to the processes and to the systems that they need to do it, because they're not on premise, right? They cannot ask a colleague about that information. So it needs to be readily available. And not only that, but you also need to control their work. So if they're trying to scam the customer, you need to block that. If they're trying to say something it's with low quality, you need to control that. So you need to implement a lot of controls because of the lack of trust of not having someone on premises or with a solid contract that you may never have saw them before. And that was the idea of the marketplace, like anyone that you never saw be working on customer support. So if you need to control someone's work in that way, then you're very close to automated.
And at Optave, do you spend time with your customers building all of those controls? How does that work now? That sounds difficult.
Yeah, so this was interesting. Once you need to start building these controls, the most important thing that you need to make it right is the copilot, is how the AI will assist the agents. We first launched this copilot, and it has been extremely successful. We've did A/B tests with thousands of agents, and it's improving every possible metric of customer support compared to humans, not compared to chatbots. It's very easy actually to be better than all chatbots. So we're making the end customers more satisfied. We're solving their customers better. We're doing it using less messages. We're doing it faster. We're selling more through calls by aiding the humans. So these guardrails that I've mentioned, they're more like a management tool. You use them to, for example, if the quality evaluation is below 6, you block the agent to send it to the customer, and the agent needs to interact with the AI until the message is good enough. And this,
Also, you are using it with humans, and the human can say, nope, the automatic evaluation says this is not a good enough response.
yeah, and we do this like in 1 second. We trigger 20 different analyses, And with the results of them, we can have different paths and route to different agents. If there's some risk, for example, we can trigger call a manager to reveal it. We can identify if a call needs escalation, for example. So a customer doesn't need to ask, hey, I need to talk with your manager. A manager will know about it like way before things escalate too much. So there's a lot of things that can be useful if you use it in parallel. And a lot of people only see AI with this console that is ChatGPT, where you need to ask the questions for it to be useful. But the biggest value of it is once it's so integrated with your workflow that hundreds of prompts and API calls and AI requests that are being done without you even noticing it. And they're automatically treating things that you cannot see. And this is one of the things that we're trying to do.
One of the things that you mentioned, it would be a good thing to talk about, was what do you see as the competitive differentiation for what you're doing versus, you mentioned chatbots or other approaches out there?
Yeah, this is huge. And I talk with like many investors, and one of their main concerns is, what is the moat once the core of your technology hasn't been created by you and now it's broadly available to anyone open source, right? So you need to build things that the AI is not capable of. For example, can the AI understand what the manager of the company that is hiring you wants? Can the AI be controlled? And these things, like, it needs a manager in the middle. How can you show to the company that the AI is generating value? And how do you allow them to see it and to manage it in a way that is user friendly, that has a great user interface? For every vertical, we'll see these things. We'll see, like, okay, this is how you connect your data. This is how our APIs, you can upload them, you can add a link, and you will follow if there's anything wrong. And then after this step, they will need to act upon it. So if there's any duplicates or any conflicts on the data, things that are pointing to different directions, or the AI is confused, then someone from the company can go there on this menu and say, like, oh no, this is the actual meaning. This is what I want to do. And you should pick this. And then they will choose the tone and how the AI will speak. They will, this is very basic, but they will go like into what's the AI roles, what are their responsibilities, how they should deal with ethical concerns, or some requests that are unusual. So the humans need to do a lot of decisions, and they're training to do a lot of decisions, and the AI needs to do it as well. So you need to have an interface, like asking the manager. Of course, you can have like most of the things pre-set up, but you are generating value if you allow control. Because it doesn't matter how smart an AI gets. You don't want it to just like control your entire company, right? Like he may not understand the foundations or where you want to drive it to be able to. So I believe that these two things can add a lot of value. So control, good interfaces, disambiguation of data. But there's another thing. You need to expand the AI. And here is where the platform layer starts acting. So, for example, on the weights of the model, you don't have authority. You don't have like how recent is the data or how reliable it is. And this is a limitation, because how can you distinguish what is fact from what is a lie or hallucination if you don't have that information on the model for you to take those decisions? So scientists will need to create a completely different new model with other parameters to be able to track factuality. And this is so true that if you think about it, like OpenAI has hundreds of billions in investment in evaluation, and it hasn't figured it out yet. So if you talk with ChatGPT, OpenAI cannot tell if it's lying or if it's not. Even this posing a huge risk for them, legal risk of lying, being deceitful, and guiding someone to something that can cause damage to them. If you fix this, you can also have like a huge business that is great. So I'm talking about extending the model. So there are a lot of opportunities to manage the data, to get the correct information, to learn, to create like memory, to do integrations, to expand what the model can do or not, to do RAG, of course. And even other, like, RAG is already, it doesn't represent the full extent of search anymore. Right? Like, you can train an LLM to do search. You don't need to have a vector database. You can use the context of the model to expand it and keep everything in its memory all the time, and many other things. So you need to understand, like, okay, how do you prove that? And the one last thing is, if you decide, okay, so I will make the AI only use the information that I have, you're limiting it tenfold, because the AI is trained on trillions of data points on the internet. So you really want to lose all of this. And one representation of that is, like, if the AI do a search and tries to answer from the search, the quality of the answer is way worse than if it uses its own training model. So all of those things are complications that you need to overcome to create something actually meaningful. And if you just create a company that uses the plain capability of the model, then you'll be dead in a few years. But if you solve those things in a meaningful way that cannot be replicated easily, then you have a moat.
I like that a lot. Thank you, Carlos. I've heard the advice that you'll probably lose your business if you're building around the limitations of an AI. How do you see those things that you're building on top of as augmenting rather than working around a limitation?
I believe whoever said it is correct, because the limitations of the AI will be replaced by companies acting as on the platform layer. Like, they will create solutions to solve that, and that those solutions will cover every use case, not only yours of customer support or anything else that you're doing. And probably these platform layers will do way better than you. So you'll be wasting millions to solve something that someone is doing way better, because they scale more than you. They are focused only on that part, and they eventually will be the best on it. So there are a lot of things that you can solve that are related to your vertical that are not this related to these limitations. And it's just like, because you're not focusing on the capabilities of the model, you're focusing on problems on the industry that you're facing that emerge because you're using this model, which is a completely different thing. So one thing is like, I'm expanding the model. Another thing is like, okay, now that I'm using it and this thing will become perfect eventually, what is left?
I like that. I haven't yet asked you, how did you get into AI?
That's an interesting question. So I've always wanted to, since I'm a kid, to do something good and meaningful for the world. So the most important decision I've had in my early 20s was which university I would do, right? So actually, when I was 16, 17, and I was thinking, okay, like, you see this CRISP that is genetically modifying hacker things to create new medicines. It looks
Yeah,
interesting.
CRISPR was amazing.
You have artificial intelligence, robotics, and all those things. Like, I already knew that could make a huge impact in the world. So I've wanted to work in one of them. And because robotics and artificial intelligence are closer, I thought maybe if I go to computer engineering, I can do both, and I can decide later, right? So I've decided to study computer engineering, and right from my first month, I had a selective process to participate in it's a gaming creation group. The guys had won many international competitions about gaming, and I've proposed to them that I could create their AI for games. So more than 20 years ago, I've got accepted into this group, and I've started studying AI to be able to help them win more competitions in gaming. And this is how everything started.
And I imagine that AI looked a little like it does today, but not a lot. How has it evolved since then?
Oh, a lot, right? Like, you were using AI to just like control Tetris pieces, or where they would fit, or some NPCs or enemies in a game. And most of it was like algorithms and rule-based systems, and it
Mm.
would never pass any AI test or benchmark or anything. So, and one of the things that caught my attention there is like, I've read an article saying that the architecture of the computers back then was incompatible with AI. And I need to go back to that article and look for it and understand what they've missed. Because now I believe that like, well, we still have like computer and we're almost there. So it's interesting to see how even science can be misleading. And this was something that like to me was very disappointing back then. I thought like,
Mm.
oh, I need to help to do the real AI, not like just some algorithm based AI. And
Yes.
there was like a very credible person saying that it wasn't possible. So it's an interesting thing.
I also was disappointed when I was in university by AI at the time, so I didn't go into computer science because it felt like tiny little neural networks doing handwritten digit recognition or rule-based systems. Neither one of those is exciting.
Yeah, I've ended up becoming an entrepreneur because of that. Right? Because I thought like, well, maybe I will not be able to create the next AI, so I would better be an
Mm.
entrepreneur.
And now, what does AI mean to you?
To me, as a human, AI means a lot because I believe that the more science and facts and intelligence is broadly available, the less space here is for evil and for bad things. So, for example, it's way harder today with science for people to sell snake medicine, snake oil, and because you just go to science and you prove that like it's simply wrong. So I believe that if we have an unbiased AI that people can go to and ask questions, and it will bring the factual, the science in a way that educates them and guide them, the world will be better. And I saw a research yesterday by coincidence telling that AI had a huge effect. It's like 42% decrease on the beliefs from people that believes in conspirational theory just by talking with AI.
Wow.
So I really believe that AI, it's great. Not everybody has patience to be explaining why someone else is wrong. And you need to go really deep in their thinking to see where the flaw is. But the AI has infinite patience and it's always available. And it's like having a genius friend. It will be like once it becomes, and it's already in a certain way like that. Uh, that can go and go and go and go in your way of thinking and help you just fix it. And because there's no arguments against facts, you end up changing and making the world better, man.
I also really appreciate how, even if you had a really good friend, sometimes it's hard to have a conversation because you feel like they might judge you, or perhaps they'll just disagree on the facts too. But with that concept of a friend, how do you see AI fitting in as either a tool or a friend as it gets better?
Yeah, the first time I've had fully access to Google, the first thing I've asked myself is like, oh, how big of a deal this would be if I had access to this early in my life. Or like I would love to, when I was a kid, to be asking all those questions to Google and not to my parents that couldn't answer most of them, right? So now with AI, this is an even bigger improvement from that point. You can have access to this information that it's accurate if someone takes care of creating an unbiased. And I think people are already working on that, but I believe that's the path, an opinion that you can trust. This will open your perspective about the world. It will help people do less mistakes. It will improve their lives. We're seeing like AI finding cures or diseases from symptoms that many doctors couldn't. We'll be able to, you'll be able to have like an optimal path for anything that you care about, even if the things that you care about are not very important to the world, but is important for you. So like, how do I don't know, like improve my skin, or how do I cut my hair, or whatever how do I dress myself better? It doesn't matter. Whatever like matters to you, you do it better than before. If you would like to be jacked and go to the gym, it will create an incredible program for you to do it like in a record of time. And then you save your time because you reach your goals faster. You don't like do some silly mistakes that most people do in life and make them like, I don't know, be in a very bad state, or because you don't have access to money. Can you believe like having access to a financial advisor almost for free, because ChatGPT is already free. So this will distribute the knowledge in the world even for people that cannot afford it, which is amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. And shifting gears just a little, how do you see the future of work evolving with that? Maybe specifically with an eye to customer support, since that's what you're working with at Optave.
Okay, this is an important question, because if you think about it, you can't reach customer support for most of the companies that you utilize in your daily life. They put you to in a knowledge base or to talk with a chatbot that is most of the times useless, or they simply doesn't have like a support button. So for Instagram, for Google, for almost any social network, you cannot talk with support. So there is way more demand for customer support than the companies can afford to pay and to receive. So as everything in life, once we automate things and once we give an alternative, some companies will cut jobs, but they will cut jobs because they need to, not because customer support doesn't give them results, because this is proven that customer support gives them a lot of results. So they're hurting their model, maybe because they're facing financial struggle and the AI is giving them an alternative to deal with the struggle, which is good. But the, we'll see a time when the AI will start opening tickets for customer support. And then we'll not have the barrier of someone like waiting there, or you can put any barriers you would like and the AI will find its way and open a ticket anyway, right? And we'll have infinite patience to be waiting there, like for on the line to talk with an agent. And then the demand will increase even more. So I believe that Octave and the AI for customer support can act as a defense mechanism as well. So we're improving the productivity from the customer support tenfold because the demand may also improve in tenfold. And actually, the demand is already way higher than the companies are serving. So you may end up adding that customer support button and giving help for more people and assisting more people and giving like the entire customer experience of the world, improving it for everyone, which is great. But unfortunately, I cannot say the same for other areas. And I believe the AI will end up like taking a lot of jobs elsewhere. But I think like customer support it's a good place for it, for helping humans and making the entire ecosystem better.
I like that view of the demand that exists that we can't currently service with just humans, because humans are expensive. They should be.
Yeah, so there is a lot of lies in entrepreneurship and out there. And since chatbots, you could see people saying that they would automate 90% of their customer support. So once I was doing the initial research for Optave, I saw, wow, this AI thing can revolutionize the industry. Let me see what my competitors are saying. And that they were already promising way more than I could possibly deliver with AI on the new, with the new wave of technology that was way better than the previous one. So I think people should be really careful when they're picking a supplier and understanding the limitations of the technology, because we are on this delusional peak where people believe that the capabilities of the AI can be way better than they actually are and don't understand the limitations. Once at this moment, for example, we have proven to deliver more than 10 times the more resultant companies are paying us using the copilots and not the automation. Right? And a lot of times, automations is still deflecting a lot of customers and making them unhappy. And they're so traumatized with bots that with a bot just talking with them, they quit.
Yeah.
So you're not actually solving, you're losing customers. And you need to be really careful with that. So the AI has a path. If you map the customer support, for example, on average, 80% of the requests need some access to a system that the AI doesn't have when accessing your knowledge base or previous customer support requests. And let's suppose like someone promises you that they can learn with the past conversations from your agents. How would they know that this has changed? If you change our knowledge base the AI will stick to these previous answers and will keep answering the wrong thing. So it's way more complicated, and the solution is way more sophisticated than it seems to be able to do some basic things. And because people, I don't know, like the promise of AI is so huge, we're in a moment where companies that are selling or focusing on copilots like Optave, because we don't lie, some customers end up deciding to go to the one that it's promising more. And they will pay a heavy price for that. They end up paying like hundreds of thousands in onboarding just to discover that like the promises were false, but they've already paid 150,000. And now like the managers have their reputation to stick to it and say like, no, now I will pretend that this was a good decision anyway, or I will get fired because I've spent all this amount of money in this wrong decision. So this is very important. If you're trying to apply AI at your company, really understand its limitations and understand that there are some traps out there and you should be aware of them.
Other than the trap that you mentioned where customers are traumatized by chatbots, and I know when I meet a chatbot, I immediately go straight to how do I contact a human because I have had that experience. Are there any other traps that we should be aware of when thinking about the return on an AI product?
Yeah, I think I can think of many to be honest. So you need to be really careful when deciding to build an AI project at your company, because a lot of times you receive some requests from the board saying like you need to apply AI at the company, and you see that the AI is not fully ready, and then you start looking into okay, what are the good applications of AI? Oh, okay, so someone is applying AI in customer support, so I will create an AI in customer support. How can you possibly create a better AI in customer support than a company that is specialized on it, that is learning from dozens of customers, that it is getting millions of dollars to create it? And I think like the biggest trap behind it is that you can create a bot that access your knowledge in a weekend. And
Yeah.
you can think that this is good enough. But the point is, because you can like solve 70% of the requests from a knowledge base in a weekend, you will never know that to actually control the mistakes from that AI, or to grow anything above that 70%, or to even to understand that like, okay, distinguish the 30% that it cannot answer from the 30% that it can
Mm.
answer, it will take you years of development. And it's actually beyond the current technology state. So I think because people can deliver so much value so fast, they get misleaded into creating their own project and trying to maintain it. And now they have like this huge maintenance cost on their company on something that is not their core, because they need to be maintaining and improving something that is way harder than that developer that told you that could do it in a weekend actually can do. So that's a huge trap.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
logic of what to build and what to buy remains the same. You should focus on building what is core to your business, even though you believe that AI can be the core to your business. So focus on what is the core. Hire a PhD, a researcher. Try to understand its limitations. Don't like try to build whatever you can build just because the most important thing is it's beyond your reach.
Yeah, the trap of the quick prototype seems especially strong with AI because it can deliver so much so quick.
It is also a trap because let's suppose, would you prefer to pay $1,000 to someone that generates like $5,000 in return to you, or would you rather pay $500,000 to someone that will generate 10 millions in return to your company? If your answer is not the second, please review your logic, right? Like, unless like of course you don't have 500,000 to pay to it, but like even then you should find a way, like go to a bank and get this money because you're paying 10 times more back. So from your savings, you would more be able to afford to pay this loan afterwards. So look for what is best, because that 30% difference can make a huge difference to your business. And I think one last thing about it is you need control and reliability for automation. And automation is a huge disruption in the market. So you'll never be able to reliably automate, or to automate something that you can trust, without first being able to control it. And this is really hard today. And I believe that will be the next wave of AI products. Those the one that you really can trust and that can do way more automations than the ones that only promises it can do today.
I started this podcast because I wanted to stand at the gate of businesses using AI and see what separated hype from lasting impact. Back when cities had walls, you had to go into the city to do business at the market. So, if you wanted to talk to someone, you waited by the gate until they came in or came out. Do that enough times and you could talk to everyone. That's what I want to do. Stand at the gate of people doing business with AI and talk to them, see what they do and why they do it. If you know someone that's making an impact in the world of AI, would you connect them with me? You can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at daniel@manary.house. That's Daniel@MANARY.HAUS. Thanks for listening.